Hey there, I'm replacing this radiator in a 97 Toyota Corolla. So I'm about to take these mounting brackets off. There's a 12mm bolt. I loosened this one already. First I'm gonna actually take the fan off, loosen these bolts. I took the clamp off the hose already up here. And I opened the drain. You can see the drain down there. And I drained out the fluid, which I thought it was red. Anyway, I guess it is kind of red. It looks a little more brown now, but one of those, what is it, like 3-liter, 4-liter oil pans was able to hold all that fluid. So I'm gonna remove the fan, and then I'm gonna remove those bolts, and I'm gonna lift that radiator out of there. Also remove the bottom hose for the radiator as well, which should be easier to see once the fan is out of the way. I also removed the overflow hose there. I'm just putting it over here for now. Okay, so I got the fan off and I got the radiator out. And I guess I didn't know this, but these are transmission fluid lines, these little small ones, which I heard about, but I didn't realize that, I didn't really put together that transmission fluid was coming out of those. So be careful, because those small hoses will leak transmission fluid. There's another one that I kind of propped up in there on the inside. And these these mounts for the radiator, the rubber ones, want to make sure that we keep those, put those back. And I'm gonna go grab the new radiator and drop it in there and screw the fan back on. I did have to loosen that plastic shield on the bottom to access the last screw on that, or the last bolt on that fan, and to get those two bottom hoses off. So the hoses looked good. I just I think you want to bend them and check for cracks or tears. I was rough with that bottom one, so I was checking it for tears when I was getting these impossible clamps off. So, and I got some easier, the screw-on clamps that I'm going to use to put it back. So I got the new radiator there. Ordered it on Amazon for 60 bucks. You can compare them to make sure that they're matching. And going to go ahead and drop it in and make sure that it goes into those rubber mounts there when I drop it in. And then I might start with attaching the brackets back on top and then screwing the fan back on. Or maybe I'll put the fan on first, actually. That might be easier. All right, I got some of these screw-on hose clamps that are gonna be a little bit easier than those kind of clampy ones, like these ones are the original. I'm gonna drop the new radiator in now. So we got these little bolts here with these little notches in the bottom, or nubs. And these ones are supposed to go in here, and the nubs kind of like lock into that little notch right there when the bolt, or when the, what is this called? It's not a bolt, it's a nut. When the nut slides in, the notch is supposed to lock in there. So the manufacturer included only one with the little nub on it. The other one didn't have one, so it just kind of fell out and was floating around in the box somewhere. So I'm moving the one that was included from this side to that side, because on this side it's going to be easier to reach from the top, and then I can just not include that last one when I'm installing this again. So I'll just use those 3 screws, or those 3 bolts, and I just slide that, I can slide that in there. And I'm not going to do it while I'm filming because I'm going to drop this thing, but you get the idea. I'm using the one that's easier, so I can install that one from the top there. I don't have to go from underneath and get that 4th bolt. All right, so I got the new radiator dropped in there. I put this hose on, but I'm not gonna, I have to put the fan in, so I gotta take that off again. But I wanna put these bottom hoses, attach those back on and tighten them up before I put the fan on. So get that on and get, I'll just put that hose clamp down and tighten it, and then tighten this one, and then get the other transmission fluid line as well. And just, you want to make sure that your radiator is resting in those rubber boots at the bottom. And then we can, after we put the fan back in, we can tighten this the mounts, put the cap on, fill it up, and then put the cap on after everything is tight. And yeah, so we'll start tightening those, attaching those hoses and put the fan on. So I'm using this 1/4 inch socket to tighten those hose clamps, so it's easier to just start by hand because it was kind of slipping around when I had it on the ratchet. So I'm gonna get it kind of hand tight, and then hand tight, and then I'll use the ratchet for the last little bit to tighten it up. So going ahead with the ratchet now and getting that last little bit. I don't want to hit that radiator too much, damage those aluminum things. Just want to, like, probably doesn't have to be too tight, just where it feels like it's gonna keep that hose snug. It's probably good like that. Yeah. Okay, so I took the radiator back out, and it looks like, because this thing was loose, I didn't realize that these weren't tightened all the way. So I guess this is 17 millimeters here. I'm gonna use that and tighten this up and make it in a good direction there. I also used some tan bark to wedge this nut in there because it wasn't staying. So I'm gonna just make sure those are tightened and make sure this is tightened. I heard in another video that this can be loose when you get it, so check those. Okay, so I got these tightened and in kind of a better direction. It was kind of facing that way a little bit before, and I replaced the tan bark with some bunched up duct tape in there. You can see it. And I taped up the bottom just in case so it doesn't fall out. I'm gonna drop it back in now. It also looked like I was probably tightening that hose clamp too much before, because I was seeing some like pieces of rubber were coming out of the clamp. So maybe, you know, it doesn't have to be so tight as I was doing it earlier. So I tightened it a little the other way around now, and I did it just so you can, I didn't do this on purpose, but I can kind of see like the rubber squeezing out of those pieces in between or those gaps in the hose clamp places like where the thread of the screw goes. So I use that as a gauge to kind of see how, I'm talking about like these kind of gaps right here. So I just see how much it's like squeezing through, and use that as a gauge to see how tight it is and how tight it really needs to be. All right, so I got this one tight. So I was also feeling around to make sure it's not kind of slipping. And then this is a 7/16 for that bigger hose clamp for mine. Yeah, sorry, that was 5/16, not 7/16. 5/16. Yeah, so I got that one on there. I tightened it. I was trying to keep it, I was kind of feeling around, so feeling around right when it was loose, and then when it started tightening, so I couldn't rotate it anymore. I don't want to go too much past that, I think, because I don't want to crack that. It's just plastic, that nozzle on there, so I don't want to over tighten that and crack the nozzle and then have to start this, you know, you gotta get a new radiator then. So just gotta be a little careful with those, because you can, you know, theoretically you can probably tighten that thing until it just cracks. So gotta be a little careful with these screw-on ones. All right, so I got the new radiator back in. I got the hoses tightened, and I got the fan installed, and I got the coolant hose, even the overflow hose, back on there. So now I'm going to just mix my 50-50 coolant and concentrate, pour it in there to the top, and then I'm gonna fill it up, and then I'm gonna squeeze this hose to get the air out of it if there's any air trapped, and run the engine and make sure everything is looking okay. Make sure the overflow is also filled. I think mine is like half full already, so up to the fill line. All right, so I got my 50-50 mix there. Just gonna dump it in and start her up, I guess. So I'm just checking that nothing is kind of dripping out of the bottom there while I'm filling this up. There's a lot of spots there, but it's not dripping right now. So I got this full to the top now. I'll top it off just a little bit more, and then I'll run the engine and try and squeeze. Maybe I can squeeze some air out right now. Oops. Yeah, so I just want to get the air bubbles out of there. Alright, I got the air bubbles squeezed out of probably just this part of the hose is where they need to be squeezed out of, and looking good here. I'm going to put the cap back on, and then also make sure to fill up the transmission fluid if you spilled some, like I did. There we go. I got that reservoir filled up to the full line. And I'm filling up my transmission. I just added a little. I'm going to check the level again after the fluid has settled down through the tube. The transmission fluid level was looking good. It dripped down a little bit, but it was up there in the cool area. And that's how you replace the radiator on a '97 Corolla. So I hope this was helpful for you, and good luck.